Consider supporting Archaeosoup on Patreon for as little as $1 per month. Link available in the video description. Thank you.
Hello and welcome back to story time, I guess. I know at the beginning of this video it says book review, but it has come to my attention. I've been advised by you fine folks that it might be a good idea to separate out the storytelling, the riddle examinations, the textual explorations that we do, examining writings from history, into its own thread, its own series, separate from book reviews, if nothing else, so that people can find them more easily. And that's a wise thing. In fact, wisdom is a very topical notion for today, as we'll see. I hadn't had time to create that new ident for the series, so hence it still says book review at the beginning of this video. But I hear you, I've seen your comments, and I agree. So I'll be acting accordingly. Today, we're going to continue with a story from Tales from the Mabinogion by Gwyn Thomas and Kevin Crossley Holland, with illustrations by Margaret Jones. This is a magnificent book, a magnificent version of a book, a very accessible children's book, and crucially it's a book that I can in fact read from. See previous episodes for the drama surrounding that. Also, a note on pronunciation. While my pronunciation may not always be perfect, the broad strokes, things like double L's, double D's, this kind of thing in Welsh, I have examined in a previous video. So I'll link to that one, I think, at the end of this video. So if you're curious, if you want to know more, then check that out. But today we're going to hear the tale of Prince Pwyll of Dyfed. And Pwyll means wise one, someone bestowed with wisdom, as it were. It's not, incidentally, and this is where, again, if you're still tuning your ear in to the language, it's not the same as the word pwyll. So pwyll, Pwll, means pool. So pwyll nofio is a swimming pool, whereas pwyll means a wise, or someone who is wise, someone with wisdom. So Prince Pwyll of Dyfed is the focus of today's tale, and the way in which he became the Lord of the Underworld, or I suppose in a job share scheme. But we'll see. You will see. So sit down, relax, and here we go. Pwyll, Prince of Dyfed, was Lord of 7 regions. While he was at Arberth, one of his chief courts, he thought it would be good to go hunting in the part of his realm called Glyn Cych. So that evening he set out from Arberth and reached a place called Pen Llwyn Diar Oia. And there he remained overnight. Next day Pwyll got up with the dawn and came to the woods of Glyn Cych, and there he let loose his hounds. He sounded his horn and began to hunt. Pwyll followed his hounds so far into the forest that he lost touch with his friends, and as he listened to the baying of his own pack of hounds, he heard the baying of another pack that sounded different from his own. And this other pack was coming towards his own. Pwyll could see a clearing in the woods, a flat meadow, and as his hounds reached the edge of the meadow, he could see a stag running in front of the strange hounds from the other pack. Near the middle of the meadow, these hounds caught the stag and threw it to the ground. Pwyll looked at the colour of the strange pack of hounds without even bothering to look at the stag, and of all the hounds he had ever seen, he had seen no hounds the same colour as these. Their coats were shining white, their ears were red. And as their white coats shone, so their red ears gleamed. Pwyll walked up to the strange hounds. He drove them off the stag and began to feed his own hounds on the meat of the fallen beast. While he was busy feeding the hounds, Pwyll noticed a knight riding up after the strange hounds on a large dapple-grey horse. He had a horn hanging from his neck and wore a hunting cloak of light-coloured material. The knight approached Pwyll directly and said, "Lord, I know who you are, but I am not going to greet you." "Is that so?" said Pwyll. "Perhaps you're so noble you don't have to greet me." "You can be sure," said the knight, "that it's not my nobility that prevents me from greeting you." "Then what prevents you, my lord?" asked Pwyll. "God knows," he said. "It's your impertinence." "What impertinence have you seen in me, my lord?" asked Pwyll. "I never saw a greater lack of courtesy in anyone," said the knight, "than that you should drive away the hounds that killed the stag and set your own hounds upon it. Although I'm not going to avenge myself upon you, I'll dishonour you as if you had killed 100 stags." "Now, my lord," said Pwyll, "if I've wronged you, I'll buy your friendship." "How?" asked the knight. "According to your rank, whoever you are." "I am crowned king in the country where I come from," said the knight. "My lord," said Pwyll, "good day to you. From what country do you come?" "I hail from the Otherworld," he replied. "I am Arawn, king of the Otherworld." "My lord," he said, "in what way can I win your friendship?" "This is the way," said Arawn. "There's a man whose kingdom lies next to mine, and he is always causing me trouble. His name is King Havgan. If you will put an end to his enmity, a thing that you can easily do, I will be your friend." "I'll do that gladly," said Pwyll. "And now tell me how to do it." "Like this," the king replied. "I'll be your good friend and arrange for you to take my place in the other world, and I'll give you the most beautiful woman you've ever seen to live with. I'll make you look exactly like me, so that no servant or officer or anyone who has ever met me will guess that I am not there. Things will remain like this for a year and a day. Then we will meet again here." "Good," said Pwyll. That doesn't sound particularly wise, to be fair, does it? Just going, "Okay, yeah, grand. No one at home knows this. He hasn't told his I don't know, his wife or girlfriend or partner. He hasn't, mentioned this to his family. Good," he says. "But if I'm to be in your kingdom for a year, how will I find this man you speak of?" "I have arranged," said the king, "to meet him at a ford 1 year from tonight. You will be there looking exactly like me, and you will strike him once only. He cannot live after being struck. And however much he may beg you to strike him a second time, do not agree to it. However many blows I gave him, he'd still be able to fight as well as ever the following day, you see. But you have a chance." "Good," said Pwyll. "But what shall I do with my own realm?" "I'll arrange things so that no one in your realm can tell the difference between us," said Arawn. "I'll go there in your place." "I agree gladly," said Pwyll. "And now I'll set out for your kingdom." "Nothing will hinder you on your way to my kingdom," said the king. "I'll come with you and show you the way." Arawn accompanied Pwyll until he could see the court and the houses where Arawn's people lived. "There you are," said the king. "The court and the kingdom are yours. Now proceed to the court. Everyone there will know you, and as you see their way of doing things, you'll get used to it." follow their lead, as it were. Pwyll went on to the court. He could see bedchambers and halls and other rooms and the most splendid buildings that anyone had ever seen. Then he went to the hall to change his clothes, and squires and young men came to assist him. Each greeted him in turn, and 2 knights came to take off his hunting garb and dress him in silk clothes of a golden colour. The hall was made ready. Pwyll looked at the hall guard and the other soldiers as they came into the hall, the fairest and most splendid company that anyone had ever seen, and he saw the queen with them, the most beautiful woman that anyone had ever set eyes upon. She was wearing a silk dress, the colour of bright gold, matching his own. Well, his own clothes, obviously. He wasn't wearing her dress. Inside the hall, everyone went to wash and then took their places at table. The queen sat on one side of Pwyll, and an earl, as he imagined, sat on the other. Pwyll and the queen began to talk, and while he was talking with her, he thought he had never met a woman less petty or more gracious in his life. They spent the time eating and drinking and listening to songs, and of all the courts that Pwyll had ever seen on earth, this was the greatest and had the most wonderful spread of food and drink, the most abundance of gold vessels, and a giant pile of priceless gems. So the time came for them to go to sleep, and off they went, Pwyll and the queen. As soon as they got into bed, Pwyll turned to face his side of the bed, so that he had his back to the queen. The next day they were affectionate and friendly to one another, but however affectionate they were during the day, every night was exactly the same as the first night. Pwyll spent a year hunting, listening to songs, eating and talking with his friends until the night of the combat. And that night everyone in the kingdom of the Otherworld thought as much about this combat as did Pwyll himself. Pwyll made his way to the meeting place, as he had agreed a year ago, accompanied by his noblemen, and as soon as he reached the ford across the river, a knight stood up and said, "Now, men, listen carefully. This combat is between 2 kings. Each claims the other's land. All you can do is stand to one side and let them decide it." At this, the 2 kings rode to the middle of the ford to meet one another. Pwyll struck Halfdan such a blow on the boss of his shield that it split in 2 halves and his armour smashed. And Halfdan himself was thrown to the ground, lance and arm length behind the rump of his horse, so him flying back off his horse. He was mortally wounded. "Ah, my lord," said Halfdan, "what right have you to kill me? I wanted nothing of yours. I know of no cause for you to kill me, but for God's sake, finish what you have begun." "My lord," said Pwyll, "maybe I'll regret doing what I've done to you, but ask someone else to kill you. I'm not going to do it." "Loyal men," said Halfdan, "take me from here. I am at death's door. I can no longer look after you." "And, my nobleman," said Pwyll to Halfdan's men, "take counsel. Decide which of you ought to be my vassals, ruling in my name." "Lord," said the nobleman, "we should all be your vassals, for there is no other king in the other world but you." "Good," he said. "I will receive whoever submits himself to me, and whoever does not will be forced by the sword to do so." It's taken quite a turn, hasn't it? Pwyll is a bit victory drunk, I think, here. Hearing this, all of Halfdan's men yielded to Pwyll, and he took control of the kingdom. By noon on the following day he was recognized everywhere as the ruler of the 2 kingdoms, his own and that of Halfdan. That evening, his mission now complete, Pwyll rode to Glenkeith and his appointed meeting with Arawn, king of the Otherworld, who was already waiting for him. The 2 were happy to see one another. "Indeed," said Arawn, "may God reward you for your friendship. I have heard of your victory." "Fine," said Pwyll. "When you reach your own country, you'll see what I've done for you." "May God reward you for everything you've done for me," said Arawn. Then Arawn gave back to Pwyll, Prince of Dyfed, his own shape and appearance, and he himself resumed his own shape and appearance. Then Arawn rode towards his court in the other world, and it gave him great joy to see his people and his guard again, for he had not seen them for a year. But they had not missed him, for they did not know that he had gone. He passed that day in complete happiness, sitting and talking with his wife and nobleman until it was time for everyone to go to bed. Arawn went to bed, and his wife followed with him. The first thing he did was to talk to her and turn to her. She had not been used to this for a year, of course, and she thought, "What's this? Why is he different tonight?" And the way he's been for a year has been quite odd. And she thought for a long time. Arawn woke up from a short sleep and spoke to his wife once, twice, 3 times. He was so happy to be with her once more, but he received no answer. "Why won't you talk to me?" he asked. "Well," she answered, "I have not talked this much with you in this bed for a year." "What?" he said. "We've talked a lot together, haven't we?" "I swear," she said, "for a year, from last night, from the moment we go to bed, I've had no warmth from you, no words, nor your face turned towards me, not to mention anything else. I have needs." Then Arawn thought, "Indeed, I've had a friendship of a strong and honest man. He wasn't even tempted by my wife." Then he said to his wife, "My lady, don't get annoyed now, but as God's witness, I have not slept with you for a year from last night." And then he told her the whole story. I'm not sure she's going to take this. "Indeed," she said, "you have found yourself a true friend who's withstood a temptation like this for a whole year. He's been faithful to you, and she's taking this relatively well, I think." "Yes, indeed, my lady," he said. "I was thinking about that while I was silent." "And no wonder," she said. Meanwhile, Pwyll, Prince of Dyfed, returned to his own realm and country. He soon asked the important people of the country how his governance had been during the last year compared to previous years. "My lord," they said, "your courtesy was never greater. You were never so kind, never so generous, and things have never been in better order than they have been in the past year." "With God as my witness," he said, "you should thank the man who has been here with you. This is what happened." And then Pwyll told them the whole story. "Fine, Lord," they said. "Thank God you enjoyed that kind of friendship, and the kind of government we've had this last year. You won't take it away from us, will you? We got a new swimming pool." "I won't, by God," said Pwyll, and everyone was pleased. From then on, Pwyll and Arawn began to strengthen their friendship with one another, sending to each other horses and hounds and hawks and whatever precious metals and other trinkets they thought might please the other. And because Pwyll had gone to the other world in the past year and ruled there so successfully and made 2 kingdoms one through his bravery, he came to be called Pwyll, King of the Otherworld, or Pwyll Pen Annwn, head of the underworld. And that is not the end of the tale of Prince Pwyll, but it is where we're going to end today, and it's a nice little wrap up for a bit of a job share with the king of the otherworld, of the underworld, and it's a strange one, isn't it? It's a strange way to end the story because no one seems to be too surprised that it happened. The wives and families involved don't seem too freaked out by it. I think I would be, definitely. And everyone sort of won. It was a win-win situation. Indeed, the battle with Havgan even though it was sort of violent and a decisive blow, it's described as being a brave act of union, bringing kingdoms together. So it's an insight into a mindset, isn't it? Into ways of ruling, and into attitudes to political decisiveness that comes out of a curious combination of mythology and instruction, I suppose. Though I'm not sure I'd instruct anyone to to take the place of surreptitiously take the place of someone and deceive their wife for a year. Strange. I know Mrs. Soup would not be happy with that. She's currently working in her office above, and I might read her this story, see what she thinks. Not thinks about swapping with people. She wouldn't be impressed, to say the least. Anyway, we will continue this tale of Prince Pwyll in the future. Thank you for watching and listening. Hopefully you've enjoyed. Until next time, do take care. Bye bye.